Hi, I'm Brad DeRoche. Welcome to my course on sight reading. This is lesson 20. All right, if you stuck with me so far, you should be reading melodies, natural note melodies in all four registers with pretty good accuracy, like a 90% score or higher with a metronome marking of your choosing. And you've hopefully learned to keep moving forward at all costs and to look ahead and grab chunks of information instead of staring at single notes and playing one note at a time. So if you're doing all that pretty well, the next logical step to take is to make the music more advanced. And how do we make the music more advanced? Well, add things like key signatures with sharps and flats in them. And so that will start to change some of the places that we're playing the notes. We'd move beyond just playing all natural notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and add the sharps and flats. So that's one thing we could do. We could add trickier rhythms also. And then the last step would be to add harmonies to that to make the pieces polyphonic, but we'll wait. Today's not going to be the time for that lesson. That's going to come a little bit later on. In order to help us to play some slightly more difficult melodies, though, I've selected a new group of pieces, and I sent them to you. It's called Monotic Pieces in First Position. All right, we're not actually going to play these in first position all the time, but you could play them there as a starting point. But these are really good pieces to help us to become more advanced in reading. They kind of move from easiest to more difficult as you go through them. But they're just nice traditional pieces that you've probably heard most of them before. And they're just perfect for this particular topic. So today, in addition to playing more advanced music and talking about that a little bit, I just wanted to basically tell you that's the next step in the process, is to play more challenging music. You could also raise your metronome speeds up a little bit and things like that, and that's how you would continue to advance. There are hundreds of melodies available out there now online as free resources, so you can continue to look for those. You could also look at violin methods for good pieces that fit well on the guitar. They use a lot of sharp key signatures, sharps in the key signatures, those keys that work also well on the guitar. Then if you want to challenge yourself more, pick up music for flute, for instance, and those pieces will tend to have a lot of flats in them. Once again, single notes. So you're just trying to give yourself a challenge by playing pieces not only in low register, though. Make sure you're playing in the middle and high and very high registers also, so you get comfortable reading up and down the fingerboard. All right. Harmonies will add another challenge for us, but we're not quite ready for that yet in this series. So let's just stick with our single note melodies, and starting with this group today. Now, the piece that I wanted to start with, I actually decided on a piece that's 4 pages in. So if you find the 4th page of this collection, there's a piece called Sakura. You may know this one, beautiful Japanese piece, traditional Japanese melody. And there's some great classical guitar arrangement in this also. But anyway, this is just a very easy single note arrangement. And if you follow our standard protocol that we've gotten used to, our different steps to go through, I think this will help you to play this well. So the first step, again, is to scan through the piece. And at the beginning, what I notice right away is there's a sharp in the key signature. The note F is sharp. All Fs, regardless of octave, are sharp. And so in order to do that on a guitar, of course, if you found an F here, you would play it 1 fret higher, it would be F sharp. Same thing here. If this is F, now it's going to be F sharp in this piece instead. Okay, you get the idea. Most of you already know this. And then I look at my meter signature, and that's 4/4 time. That half circle is what that is. Actually, it's not really a letter C, although it looks like one now. It's a half circle. Anyway, we can talk about that later if you want to know the history of music notation. So anyway, 4/4 time. And as I look through this, I notice I've got quarter notes, half notes, a few eighth notes mixed in there. The melody seems like it's moving mostly stepwise, but there are a couple of big leaps on the second line, that half note jumping almost an octave up, a seventh up. That's a tricky spot, it looks like. Then we've got a rhythm that's a little unique for us so far. It's a rest, a quarter rest near the end. And I notice there are no returns in this piece, no da capos and no repeats. So with this one, we're just going to play simply one time through, okay? And you can do this in a couple of different ways. When I was doing this for myself, the method that I chose was to Try different things each time. So each day I would read, I might start today, let's say, reading in low register. So I'd read a couple of melodies in low register, then I'd move up to middle, then high, then very high. Then the next day I might start in the middle register, play middle, high, very high, and then low register. And the next day high register, very high, low, middle, high register, etc. I just mixed it up so that I wasn't always starting with low register, because if you always start in low register, it's the easiest place for most of us to read, for one. And secondly, you learn the tune a little bit once you've played it one time. So the second time around, it's not quite as much sight reading. You're starting to learn it a little bit. And so if you always start in low register and go up, you're giving yourself an advantage each time you move up. You won't be thinking quite as much. So my recommendation is that you mix it up and you don't always start in the same spot. Don't always start in low register or in high register. Just bounce around. So today we'll just do the first step and go with low register and move up if that's going to work for you. So I chose a metronome speed of 80, and I'll walk through this with you. We're going to play it in all 4 registers. So we're going to start out low, then go middle, high, and very high register. It's pretty tricky when you get up into the very high register. Let's see how we do. Let's see if I can hang in there with the pulse at 80. All right, so I scan through. I got my metronome set. I'm going to play along with that. Third step, I'm going to play all the way through, no stopping, mistakes and all. And I may make some as we go along. We just got to keep moving though. And then we're going to try and grab chunks of information. So that's your 4th step. Or look ahead, best that you can. And then lastly, make sure you get a 90% score or higher, or you got to move the metronome down a notch or 2. Okay, that's it. Let's get started here. We're in 4/4 time. Fs are sharp. So remember to play them 1 fret higher than usual. We're starting in low register. Here we go. All together. And 1, 2, Okay, so we got through low register. Next, I want to move up to middle register. So we're going to play in this register here in the middle, and we have to find our first couple of notes, E, E, F sharp. So those are going to be on 2nd string for starters. And then watch the lower F sharp that we had. That's going to be up here on the 9th fret on the 5th string. So when you get to that lower register F sharp, that one's going to be a little tricky to reach for it. All right, I usually do a stretch and reach with my little finger, but I'm sure you'll find a way to get to it on time. Here we go. We'll keep the pulse the same. It's at 80. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, so we now played it in the middle register. I had one note there, that low F sharp here. I warned everybody about it, and I still kind of made an error on that. I was like crossing over the line as I was getting to it. So I would have dinged myself a point on that one. I certainly didn't get a 100%. That was a 99 for sure. Anyway, still good enough, but that makes me think, like, when that F sharp comes up next time around, I got to be thinking about that a little bit sooner and maybe even look to find it. Okay, let's move on. Here we are in the high register now. So we have to find E, our starting point. That's going to be 9th fret of the 3rd string. Let's try that out. Are you ready? Here's our metronome at 80. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I got through that one. I had a little struggle at one point. I was thinking I had enough, but there was one spot where I had to sort of leap right at the last second to find a note. And I did manage to stay on time, but it tells me I wasn't really looking far enough ahead or thinking enough ahead. I was just kind of right at the cusp of being able to get the notes on time. So that's the kind of stuff you want to look for when you're practicing. Like if you're just barely making it, you got to plan ahead a little bit better than what I was doing there. All right, so then we have one more time to play it here. We're going to start way up here on E, and this is here. So we have to play E and F sharp. That's our starting point. Way up here on the 4th string on 14th fret. So let's try that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. All right, so I managed to get through that one. Whew, that was a little bit more of a struggle for me personally. I can tell that I don't read notes in high register nearly as well as I do in the other three. Time to get back and put these melodies to use again, I think. Anyway, you'll find that some of these registers will be less familiar to you. It's probably the very high register like I just was talking about. Anyway, do practice those. So my suggestion is you take 1 or 2 of these pieces each day and work them through all 4 registers. You don't have to play a whole bunch of pieces, but since each piece is going to get played 4 times, you maybe only want to pick 1 or 2 tunes. It takes you 5 or 10 minutes. It'll be a really fantastic thing to add to your practicing to make you a better sight reader. All right, that's all for now. So in this section, just kind of recapping what we worked on in this section, we practiced melodies. And learning melodies is, to me, one of the very best ways to learn to sight read on the instrument. And so we started out with really simple single note melodies, and we learned to read them in each of the different registers. And once we got good with that, we can start upping the ante and making the melodies more challenging. And that's what we did here in today's lesson, made the melodies more difficult. And so if you read through all these pieces that I've given you in this collection here, you've got probably a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months worth of material just to play around with. And then the website that I have given you a link to will also give you, there's over 5,000 pieces in there. And so it's a great resource also. There's so many different things you could look up. So just find some good melodies and practice reading them once a day and just keep adding to the challenge. All right, that's it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this section here on reading melodies in all 4 registers, and I hope you'll join me for the next chunk. We're going to work on rhythms. All right, I'll see you soon. Cheers.